Call the meeting to order at 7:02 and a half. It's kind of right in the middle there. Matt, would you lead us in, oh boy, you're doing your computer.
I'm getting on the agenda online.
Okay, okay. Will you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
Sure.
Okay.
I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, roll call. Danielle, will you take roll call, please?
Trustee Villalobos? Here. Trustee Vidal?
Here.
Trustee Chiapari?
Here.
Trustee Levy? Trustee Gould? Here.
Recording of the meeting. The district digitally records the audio portion of the meetings. The recorder is located in front of the board scribe. All recordings are kept in the superintendent's office for 30 days and are available during that time period for inspection by members of the public on district equipment without charge. As a community service, Pacifica Community Television records and broadcasts meetings. The board met in closed session regarding, labor negotiations, public employee discipline, dismissal, public employee performance evaluation. No action was taken. Oh, thank you. We are going to meet back in closed session at the end of the open session for the public employee performance evaluation piece. Okay. Okay. Number 7, approval of the minutes for March 11. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
This motion passes 5-0.
Approval of the agenda and consent agenda. Do we have a motion for approval?
I would like to take something off the consent agenda, item 8G.
8G, we're going to remove.
Can I ask that we remove the agenda to discuss something on that?
Okay, good. All right. So I need a motion to approve the consent action items except for 8G, so that would be 8A through F and 8H. Yeah, that's right. No, H8, A8I. Okay, all the way through 8I. Very good. Do we have a motion to approve that?
I move that we approve the agenda, that we approve the consent agenda, items 8B through 8F and 8H.
Through I.
And I, I'm sorry, there is an
Yeah.
I, and
Yeah.
8I.
Okay, do we have a second?
A second?
Okay, all in favor? Keep your hands up, she's counting.
This motion passes 5-0.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. So, the agenda.
Yes, I was going to ask if we can move the tentative agreement between PSD and LSEA, that's 11G, if we can move that to the top of district business?
Okay, do we need to do these one at a time?
Oh, no, I see what you mean. Yeah, I think it's probably clear now.
Okay, so I need a motion to move 11G, tentative agreement between PSD and LSEA, up to...
Before health and wellness.
Yes.
For health and wellness, what number is that?
11A.
11, oh, before 11A, okay, so we'll put it in right there. So I need a motion for that?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor of moving 11G?
This motion passes 5-0.
Who seconded it? Was it Elizabeth?
All right, and now, not 11G, 8G.
I wanted to discuss some things on this.
Oh, okay. So do I need a motion before we do, okay, discussion.
This was the item regarding the approval signature for specific waiver for the resource specialist caseload at Ocean Shore. My question, I understand this person is willing to take this on, increasing their caseload. My question, though, is the effect going forward on the rest of the staff. You know, if you increase the caseload, that increases time on the principal to attend IEPs, psychologists to evaluate, test, teachers' time out of the classroom. So I'm just wondering also that caseload, how that compares to other caseloads in the district?
I think Ray would be able to respond to that.
So in comparison to other caseloads in the district, we have Ocean Shore and soon-to-be Valimar will be at 28, which is the maximum caseload for RSP. All the other school sites are below the 28 level, averaging anywhere from 20 to 25. Okay. I can get specific with each site if you want me to. And then
But you're increasing Ocean Shore to 32.
the waiver allows Ocean Shore to go, to add 4 more students to the RSP program, which would increase it to 32. And what we do to support Ocean Shore for the remainder of the school year is provide extra hours in paraprofessional time. And then we work with the principal and her team to make sure that there's a shift of resources. For example, if the school psychologist needs to attend to an RSP IEP meeting, but was already committed to something else, then the principal works with the school psychologist to make sure that everything is covered. But as far as the actual support, the program, it comes through the paraprofessional support.
So that time is increased.
Yeah, only for the remainder of the school year. Then projected enrollment for Ocean Shore for the RSP program will drop down to 19 for 15-16. And that's because we have the transition of 8th graders moving on to high school, and then the transiency of families that might move away or move to another school within the district.
And because I am very well acquainted with the RSP program at Ocean Shore,
Yeah.
and I know the room is rather small, they still feel they're going to be able to accommodate that many more students in and out of that room.
Yes, and it's not just the room where the student can receive support. We also provide the students with what's called push-in support. And so the RSP teacher and/or the paraprofessional can push in to their general ed classroom.
Okay.
So not all 28 and
Right.
or 32 are sitting in the little room.
In the room,
Yeah.
yes.
And
Thank you.
Yeah.
If I understood you correctly, like, we don't anticipate there necessarily being 32 students in the
Correct.
RSP program. It's just that since we're at 28 now, if there are additional identifications over the next year, that might push it over and so we feel like it would be prudent to apply for the waiver just so that we're covered in case that occurs and we're not sort of caught flat-footed with a
Yes.
29th identification that we're not able
Yes.
to accommodate.
It keeps us in compliance, and we appreciate the teacher at Ocean Shore, the RSP teacher is willing to allow the district to do that.
Yeah. Thank you, and also and sort of retroactive thanks to Mr. B, because he did this at Valimar
Yes.
last year, so.
Well, he's getting lined up to do it again.
Thank
So
you.
this is just for this year?
Right.
It has nothing to do with next year's staffing. But then the paraprofessionals that are going to cover, they're also already working full-time, right? So it's not just an extra load on Natalie, it's an extra load on everybody, that's works special ed at Ocean Shore.
So it's, we're not adding hours to the existing paraprofessionals in the program. We are bringing in more support through another body that will have those extra hours. Another paraprofessional.
So you're bringing a paraprofessional from another school, is that what you just?
It could be a paraprofessional that, or it could be a person that's currently, let's say, for example, 2 hours as a school assistant on campus, and then they interviewed for and got the extra 3 hours of paraprofessional time. So now they're working 5 hours on campus and on the campus in 2 different capacities.
Okay, so you will bring on an extra, how many?
3 hours.
3 hours per student?
No, 3 hours
For the fourth?
for the program for the remainder of the year of paraprofessional time.
Okay, and that happens whether you have the 29th kid or not? We're
Correct.
doing that, okay.
Correct.
So does that make you feel better about that?
It does. Thank you.
Yeah. Makes me feel better about that too, because it gives those services to us. Oh, we need a motion. You're keeping me on track here. So we need a motion to approve item 8G, signature for specific waiver request. Do I hear a motion?
I'll move.
Do I get a second?
Laverne.
All in favor? Keep your hands on those,
Motion
gotta count.
passes 5-0.
Thank you.
Thank you for stepping in, Dan.
Yes. All right. If I didn't have Wendy here, I wouldn't know what words to say either, so, and Sandy leaves me a script.
Yeah, I got my script.
Yeah, okay, we all have our scripts, we won't get far without script. Okay, so now we are up to, I'm getting there. Oh, the resolutions of appreciation, all right, good.
So this is another fun time of the school year where we get to acknowledge both our certificated and classified employees here in Pacifica School District. So these resolutions recognize that May 4th through 8th will be National Teacher Appreciation Week, and May 5th is the actual 2015 Day of the Teacher. And then we also have another resolution that recognizes May 17th through the 23rd as Classified School Employee Week. And I believe our board president is going to read those resolutions. And I'm very excited to say that our CSEA president, Sue Beckmeyer, is in the audience tonight. And our LSEA president, Debbie Little, is also in the audience tonight. So thank you, ladies, for being here.
Okay, so I'll start off reading these resolutions, which are, a bunch of very kind words, and these haven't come from our hearts yet, but you will hear words from our hearts. So, Resolution 2015-04-01-A, the Board of Trustees, Pacifica School District, County of San Mateo, State of California. Day of the Teacher and Appreciation Week. Resolved by the Board of Trustees of the Pacifica School District, County of San Mateo, State of California, that whereas a strong, effective system of free public school education for all children and youth is essential to our democratic system of government, and whereas today's teachers nurture the academic, social, emotional, and physical development of students preparing the workforce for the future, and whereas no other profession touches as many persons with such a lasting effect, and whereas good teaching grows in value and pays dividends far beyond the classroom, and whereas May 4th to May 8th, 2015 has been designated Teacher Appreciation Week by the National PTA, and CTA has proclaimed May 5th, 2015 as Day of the Teacher. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Board of Trustees of the Pacifica School District proudly proclaims its appreciation for the outstanding job performed each and every day by the teachers of the district who, through their gift of teaching, enrich the lives of all their students. Thank you. Now, the other resolution. Resolution number 2015-04-01B, Board of Trustees, Pacifica School District, County of San Mateo, State of California, Classified School Employee Week. Resolved by the Board of Trustees of the Pacifica School District, County of San Mateo, State of California, that whereas classified school employees provide valuable services to the schools and students of the Pacifica School District, and whereas classified school employees contribute to the establishment and promotion of a positive instructional environment, and whereas classified school employees serve a vital role in providing for the welfare and safety of Pacifica School District students, and whereas classified school employees employed by the Pacifica School District strive for excellence in all areas relative to the educational community. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Board of Trustees of the Pacifica School District hereby recognizes and honors the contribution of the classified school employees to quality education in the state of California and in the Pacifica School District, and declares the week of May 17th to the 23rd, 2015, as Classified School Employee Week of the Pacifica School District. Do we have a motion to resolve these resolutions of appreciation?
I move that we adopt resolutions 2015-0401A and 2015-0401B.
Okay, and a second?
A second.
Do we have any discussion? Would anybody like to say anything?
Just
Discuss this?
not discussion per se, but just to say, just to say that there's nothing to discuss, but to comment.
Okay.
Maybe that I just want to say that we not only appreciate, obviously we appreciate teachers everywhere for the work that they do, but I think we have a very, very special group of teachers and classified employees here in Pacifica, and I really want to express my appreciation for everything that they do for our kids in our district. Thank you.
I agree. I think you said it beautifully. Thank you.
We all agree?
I agree too.
So I just want to say that, you know, we've had, you know, struggles recently, and yet we've never thought in any way that our teachers were less than the best teachers in the Bay Area and probably the state of California. We feel like we have such strong teachers and classified employees in the district. It keeps our district to be one of the strongest in the Bay Area, and we feel like that is the result of the people that work here and work hard here and are such astute professionals. And, you know, we appreciate you all the time, and not just today and not just on those weeks. And teachers never feel that they're appreciated. I know I do that. So, you know, we never feel like we get the appreciation that we need. But, you know, so every once in a while we have to say it out loud. But, you know, we feel it in our heart. Otherwise, otherwise our kids would go elsewhere. You know, but Pacifica parents send their kids to Pacifica schools because of the great work that you do here. So we really, you know, the appreciation is a true appreciation from our hearts. So thank you for what you do.
Thank you. And we look forward to celebrating with our colleagues in May.
So shall we approve this? All right. So all in favor?
This motion passes 5-0.
Okey doke. Very good, thank you. All right, communications. This portion of the agenda is available to the public to address the board on any issue that is not on the agenda. The maximum time allowed for any speaker is 3 minutes. LSEA.
Now or after the vote? The vote, doesn't matter, does it
Do you want to
matter?
talk now or on that item?
On that,
On
on
that.
I'm sorry, she's going to do later?
She's going to talk on the item, the posted item.
Okay, got it.
11G.
Got it, yes. CSEA?
Not at this time.
People wishing to address the board, do we have any cards? No. Correspondence.
I do have some. First, I received from CalPADS, which is the California Longitudinal Pupil Achievement Data System. It's a state system that we've been putting into place for many, many years, and is never quite right. But every year it's getting stronger and stronger because our state did not have a system that tracked our students once they left the district. It really started to fall apart, and because every school district has a great system, but then once they leave, we never knew what happened with some of our students. So the state has developed the CalPADS, and I do want to say it's not the easiest system to use, and we have to monitor it very closely. And we did get recognition for the data management process that we had completed all of our certifications within the 6 data collection points, and that's not the easiest thing to do in the district. And we really need to credit, I think, Barbara Smith and Tina, who supports her, to make sure that the information in the system is strong and clean and pure. So I wanted to let the board know about that recognition, because it's not an easy feat. And then we did receive from the STEM Awards with San Mateo County for three years now. We have received a grant from San Mateo County, not the County Office of Ed, but San Mateo County, where we have partnered with the City of Pacifica for our after-school robotics program. And I think it is really looked upon as a beacon of people to look to partnerships where the city and the school district works really well together to provide a service and an opportunity for our students. And so we were awarded a certificate from the Board of Supervisors to Pacifica School District in relationship to our after-school science program with the City of Pacifica. So I wanted that to be noted too. And Steve Kiesel has been a wonderful support person in spearheading that with Mike Perez, with Mike, who does the budget piece with the city.
Okay, Board Superintendent Communications. Anybody want to start?
I'll start.
Okay.
I went to IDL's open house and really enjoyed myself. I got back into the role of volunteering in the library for book fair and playing with the cash register. But I had a really nice time. It seemed like it was a really successful event too. And just board meetings, seems like that's always happening in life.
I went to the IBL Open House also and the Chocolate Fest. It was the first time I'd been to the Chocolate Fest, so that was a lot of fun. And volunteered at the Ortega Book Fair, which looked like it was really successful. There are a lot of parents in and out of there, a lot of kids. And also wanted to recognize that this weekend IBL, the drum majors, swept state in the competition. So, and also at CMEA, Cabela Valimar got excellence and superiors with their band, and the beginning band went, and they were the only beginning band there, but they got superiors and goods, so they did very well. So they all did a great job.
I attended the going away party for Bev Duspiva, and it was really a lovely event, very nice turnout, and Suzanne Campos did a beautiful remembrance and a really lovely speech, as did others, Mark and others. And it was just really nice to see somebody who's been so instrumental for so long in our district being honored that way. It's really nice.
I was at the IBL Open House and the Chocolate Fest also, and we had a meeting about the parcel tax and a bunch of other board, a lot of other board meetings.
So I think my highlight was the Tech Trek interviews by the AAUW, where we had 6 candidates are they 7th graders? Of 7th graders from around the district that were vying for a scholarship to a summer camp for this summer, and we had to choose 6 of the very best from, 3 of the very best from those 6, and they'd already looked at all the paper screening applications, and so we got to talk to some lovely young ladies from our middle schools and our K-8s that have a real passion for life and science and math and athletics, and it was lovely to talk to them, and a big deal to sit in front of this this panel of, whether there were 5 or 6 of us there, and we were just pounding them with questions, and they had to be poised and answer these questions about what their interests were and everything. So they did a really, really great job, and that was fun to be a part of that. And I personally am looking forward to on Friday, the Sunset Ridge read aloud. I'm trying to think. It's not read aloud. The read aloud. So heading for that on Friday morning. So I'll report back on that the next time.
And so along with some of those things, I have also been working with the North County Math Collaborative regarding our next steps, because I think next year is our last year of implementation. So we're focusing on a 2-day institute for the summer, and then our professional development days for next year are coordinated with Brisbane, Bayshore, and Jefferson Elementary School District, so that we have our professional development days on the same days. Our hope is to start really focusing on big ideas or themes that the teachers then can listen to from a keynote speaker perspective, and then go back and look at their transitional units. We are still in conversation about our math adoption, which I'll be bringing forward to you a report in May. The other group we really get along in the North County is our North County Special Ed group. We have a North County Collaborative for Special Education that came about when the districts got together to see if we could share classroom spaces for students if we don't have enough room. Sorry, I have a cold too. Excuse me. And so we work on, excuse me, a memorandum of understanding, and I will be bringing that forward at the next meeting. Sorry.
Luckily, Ray's up next. So. All right, so now we're moving to 11G, the tentative agreement.
So Pacifica School District has a wonderful wellness plan, and this plan...
No, we brought 8G.
Oh, I'm sorry, where are we at?
11G, sorry.
Wake up.
11, sorry, yeah.
You guys. Okay. LSEA and the Pacifica School District have been in negotiations this past year, starting back in March of 2014. And I am very happy, delighted to share with the board that LSEA, our bargaining unit of teachers, and the district negotiation teams came up with a tentative agreement dated March 25th. That agreement was ratified by LSEA on March 27th. And so we are bringing this tentative agreement to the board for hopefully an approval vote for the tentative agreement for the contract for the next 3 years. And in the memo there, it's a very brief summary of, I believe, a 9-page tentative agreement.
Can I have a motion to approve this agreement between LSCA and PSD?
We have a.
The comment, don't we do the comment after the motions? I need a motion.
Move you approve the tentative agreement.
Do I have a second? Comments? Debbie, you're up.
Really?
Good evening, my name is Debbie Little, teacher at Sunset Ridge, LSEA Union President. I'd like to take this opportunity to thank our wonderful parent community for their support, encouragement, and positive presence during the past 6 months. These past months have been exhausting and emotionally draining. The support of our parents helped to make our days brighter. Their kind words picked us up when we felt like falling, and for that we're eternally grateful. And we're also very thankful that we have come to an agreement with the district. Our once idyllic, peaceful community was disrupted by the tone of these most recent negotiations and the impasse, and the once implicit trust that our community had in the district is fractured. Bridges have been scorched, but they're not completely burned. Relationships have been marred, but still I believe that with a lot of hard work by everyone, they can be repaired. So now is a time of healing within the district and with the community at large. It's going to take some time and effort by all parties involved to rebuild the trust, repair the bridges, and mend the relationships. But that said, I'm confident that in time and with everybody's help, we may be able to once again consider ourselves, in the words of Jennifer Mitchell, the Mayberry of the coast side.
Discussion, comments? Well, I, for one, am happy that we've made it through this. And I felt community support and parent support for both the teachers and the district. And, since I got a lot of emails from all sides, I heard support from all sides. And those days when I would get one of those emails that were supportive of that, we didn't know this was a hard time with those days. Like, okay, so they're helping us get through this, and then we just, we needed some time. I mean, this was something that really just took the time to work it out and talk it out, and sometimes things are really easy to talk out and figure out, and sometimes things just take their time to talk it out. And that was this year, and we will have to worry about that for a couple of years, which is nice. Really happy with the agreement that we came to, that really feels very fair, and feels like financially will be okay. So, I'm feeling strongly like this was a good effort, and even though it took 6 months, it was probably worth the 6 months of the conversation that needed to happen.
I'll just comment on that too. Being a new board member and coming into it was a lot of catching up to do. And so even though it was more like, for me, I feel it was more like January, February, March,
Yes.
because December was all the break. I appreciate the patience, from the other board members and the superintendent, and the parents and teachers, because it did take a lot to digest all the information and catch up. And it did take a lot of talking.
Okay. All right, we have a motion, we need a vote. So all in favor of agreeing to this agreement?
This motion passes for them?
Right, done. Thank you. All right, now we're going back to 11A.
Okay. So Pacifica School District has a wellness plan, and this plan requires that our district wellness committee meet twice annually. This evening, Mark Lorenzen, who is the chair of the wellness committee, will report out some updates from our recent committee meeting. Thank you, Mark, for being here.
Thank you, Ray and Wendy and members of the board for having me here, and congratulations, teachers. It's nice to have a quieter meeting tonight. The Wellness Committee met on February 10th to review the wellness plan and the LCAP Goal 7. It was a very productive meeting. During the review of the wellness plan, we discussed the need for K-5 students in the district to have coordinated materials that address healthy eating. It's one of the things we lacked in the plan. We chose a program entitled Healthy Choices, Healthy Me because it was easy to use, it's thorough, and it's supplied free by the Dairy Council of California. So materials have been ordered and all the K-5 students are going to be receiving them soon. And it's a nice little packet that helps them learn about healthy choices in food. We also presented ideas for employee wellness that Dr. Avila and I collected from our discussion with Jose Juarez, the manager of the wellness program in San Mateo Union High School District. Yes, they have a person that's hired for employee wellness, and isn't that nice? And the committee thought many of his ideas were very appealing, and the committee discussed developing an employee wellness fair and employee exercise classes as possible first steps. They have some really good ideas over there, and they started, you can have a fair, say it like at Lacey, and you can have all of our companies that we deal with come and promote wellness and show things that they have, and then they can do things like take heart rates and blood sugar levels and things like that. So it could be a first start. And the exercise classes they did, they sort of promoted them. The district sort of sponsored them in the beginning, and then they sort of maintained themselves. So they have a really healthy program there. Lastly, the committee reviewed the LCAP Goal 7 to provide the district with feedback. We forwarded to Tina several activities to incorporate into LCAP that we're already doing in the district, such as the 5 character traits that Lacey still does, our garden program and grant, and also special days we have around the district, like Challenge Day, Diversity Day, and Ability Awareness Day. The committee also suggested that the plan make note of the work the teachers have been doing recently around project-based learning, which promotes students' self-directed learning. So it was productive, and we're going to meet one more time to flesh out those ideas. And that was our meeting. Any questions? Yes, Kathy.
I have a question about the foods sold on sites. The third bullet point that talks about advertising of commercially prepared food products will not be allowed on school campus.
That's correct.
How does this relate to, for instance, when we have Jamba Juice sales?
Well, we have them after school, first of all, and we don't have any signage up in the buildings about Jamba Juice. And it's sort of a PTO fundraiser, but there's no signage. Years ago, about 12, 15 years ago, we got rid of all the signages, even things like Pepsi Cola machines in the staff room. All of that was taken out. So the Jamba Juice is a fundraiser, and you can have fundraisers after school and they meet the nutritional guidelines that the federal government puts out. And so it's a PTO function, but we don't promote it visually in the school. So does that answer your question?
Yes.
Okay, good. Any other questions? Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Um, 11, oh, raise up again. 11B, job description, general elementary music teacher.
So Pacifica School District has created a new job description for the position of general elementary music teacher. We have an upcoming job to fill for the 2015-16 school year that is going to be funded through the Pacifica Education Foundation. And we wanted to create an appropriate job description to reflect the essential duties of what that employee will do in this position. And the position will be a 70% elementary general music teacher. So we ask that the board approve this job description.
Any questions for Ray? And then why was this a 70% position?
It's my understanding that is how much funding we are receiving from the Pacifica Education Foundation, and the music teacher will only be servicing the needs of kindergarten through 5th grade, but specifically 4th and 5th grade across our district. The job description reflects TK up to 5th, but this position will only be servicing, instructing music to the students in 4th and 5th grade, and a full-time music teacher was not required for that.
All right. Can we have a motion to approve this job, the music teacher?
A motion to approve?
Second?
A second.
All in favor?
This motion passes 5-0.
Okay, 11C, classified layoffs as a result of lack of work and/or lack of funds.
So this resolution that we're putting forth to the board is in effect because of lack of work, lack of funds in our classified ranks, specifically in the food services department. So the recommendation to the board is a layoff of 2 positions in the food services department.
Any questions for Ray? Okay, well, I hate to have to ask this, but can we have a motion for this?
I move that we accept the classified layoffs.
Would they like to give a second?
I will second.
Okay, well, regrettably, all in favor?
This motion passes 5-0.
11D, MOU for San Mateo County Office of Ed BITSA services for next year.
This is a memorandum of understanding with our county office who provides support to our district for the BITSA program, which is the Beginning Teacher Support and Assessment. This is for our new teachers in the district who are completing their credential status. We have been in partnership with the county office now for several years. With the last couple of years, the county also contracts out the support providers. And so we ask the board to approve this MOU so that we can continue to contract out BITSA services with the county for the upcoming 15-16 school year.
And how many teachers did we support this year?
We supported a total of 11 this year, and we have a projected number of 7 for next year.
Any questions for Ray?
Just there was discussion about how people felt that the BITSA service we were getting from the county was not everything that it could be, and we're in discussions with them to maybe improve that? How is that?
I think it has gotten
Has it gotten-
stronger, yeah. Just streamlined a lot more because there's a lot of paperwork and, they go through, can't remember the name of it, it could be called CFAS or something, a tool that they have to do. And so I think that San Mateo County Office of Ed is trying to be a little more responsive because, the new teachers are also teaching and learning, and so I'm feeling that's happening. In addition, I think that the requirements of the number of meetings have lessened, which is very nice. And again, one of the things, because we are in the North County, we're in the north part of the county, the hope is that they'll start to do satellite kind of training.
Oh, so they don't have to
So they don't have
schlep
to-
down to Redwood City or
Right,
wherever that is.
right.
Okay.
So it's my understanding that's in the works as well.
Okay. Yeah, thanks.
Anything else? So can I have a motion to approve this MOU?
I motion to approve the MOU.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
This motion passes 5-0.
All right, 11E, curriculum instruction and assessment update, highlighting target populations.
Okay, so this is one of my, do we have PowerPoint, please? This is an update from curriculum instruction and assessment. You notice it's called CIA. I was like, whoa! But it's not anything federal. It's totally local. And thank you for the cough drop. Great. Oh, is this not working? So today, what we're going to talk about, and I think that we would like to try to bring CIA reports, updates forward on occasion, so that we could just keep the trustees updated with what's happening. From a curriculum standpoint, we'll be talking about the math adoption, an assessment update regarding our CASP, which is the new state student performance assessment, our district formative assessments, and then from an instructional standpoint, we will focus on our targeted populations, our English learners, socioeconomically disadvantaged, and our foster youth. So for a curriculum update for our math adoptions, currently we have 2 that are on the table that the teachers have been and schools have been looking at. Math in Focus, which is sometimes called Singapore Math, and Bridges, which aligns with CPM, and that is the curriculum that our grades 6 through 8 math teachers use. Right now what we're doing is we're getting school input. We have had both curriculums at the various schools, and SIVA has gone and done a presentation, giving feedback that we're receiving about the 2 curriculum that is out. We're getting feedback from our leads. We're asking parents to take a look at the materials when they're at the school, but the difficulty is the teachers may have pulled pieces of it. So we also will be having it available in the district office. And I didn't realize this. It's from April 6th to the 10th, and that is spring break. So we will be extending it through the following week, which is the 17th. And it just went by me. And then what we will do is we're going to take all this input, SIVA will work with the leads and come up with a recommendation to the board probably in May or June in relationship to what we see as potential options. What our current findings are is that it's really sort of 50-50. There are 2 very different type of curriculum. One is a little more traditional, which really focuses on the technical piece, the content piece of mathematics, rather than the thinking piece of mathematics. Bridges does the other, where it focuses more on the critical thinking, the problem solving, or the mathematical practices. And so one is not going to do it all. And so the discussion has to be around which does the teachers feel, number one, is more adaptable to what they're using. Plus, we also have the transitional units that were developed through SVMI, which we are still working with in the North County, for the North County Math Collaborative. So we don't want to give that up either, because that really is aligned with the standards and the MARS tasks and the number talks and all of those good critical thinking mathematical practices. So it still remains to be seen, but we're going to continue to gather that information, and we will bring it all forward to you. Any questions? Okay, Cass?
So we get a whole new set of acronyms to learn with the new testing program. CASP is the overarching program, the way STAR used to be. So it's actually CAASPP, I'm sorry I didn't catch that typo. The California Assessment of Student Progress and Performance. Could be performance and progress, but it's one of those. The Smarter Balanced Assessment Consortium tests, or the SBAC, is the ELA and math components of the CASP, and those are given in grades 3 through 8. There are computer adaptive portions of the test and non-adaptive portions that are more performance-based, but they're all on the computer, both parts of it. And this is nationally normed with the 20-some states that are in the SBAC consortium. The other states that are using Common Core are in the PARC consortium, if you wanted to look that up. So our window for testing is March 18th through May 29th. We have one school that's currently already gotten started, and that's Valamar. They're just breezing right through it. I mean, the kids are, getting on the computer. They're showing that they seem confident. We're not having any technical issues. And so that's going well. They've started testing with 6 through 8, and they're going to kind of move down through the grades. They're taking a long time to do their test. Most of the other schools are compacting it into a short amount of time, and they're starting after spring break. The actual time testing for students is not really any different than it was with the paper and pencil test. It's about 7 hours. But rather than the whole school sitting down at one time and knocking it out in 2 weeks, you have to get the kids on the devices, and we don't have enough devices for all of the kids to be testing at the same time. So the schools have devised schedules of using their devices for testing, and at Valamar they decided they just wanted to test for a small window each morning through the whole time, March 18th through March 29th, and still allow their computer lab and their devices to be used for other things throughout the day. Where at some schools they've decided that we're pulling all our devices, we're getting as many kids on at a time, and we're just going to knock it out in 2 or 3 weeks. So it depends on each school how they wanted to do that. The time that the kids are actually testing is the same as before. In addition to the computer-based math and ELA tests, there is still the paper test in science for grades 5 and 8. This is state normed, and it's based on the state standards, not the next generation science standards. And the window for that is April 27th through May 22nd. And then the other component that we utilize of the CASP is the California Alternate Assessment, formerly known as CAPA. And this is for the students with significant disabilities in grades 3 through 8. This year, it is now become computer-based. Does not mean that the student sits down at the computer. It means it's always been a one-to-one assessment. So rather than the teacher sitting down with the student and filling out bubbles, the teacher sits down with the student and works on the computer. It allows us to get quicker results. And they're field testing this year, which means we won't get results, but that will be April 27th through May 22nd. We have leads at each school site that were trained on February 25th. And we also trained a bunch of our district staff, some of the classified staff, as well as our specialists, so they can provide support to the schools for testing. Again, I described the way that the schools are completing the tests, and our technology seems to be working well. We have done some parent outreach. We did a district-wide email, and some of the principals have been writing articles in their newsletters. I also held a community meeting on March 19th. Unfortunately, it was pretty poorly attended, which, you know, I don't know if that means everybody's okay with what we're doing, but that's what I like to think. The parents that did show up, however, were very appreciative of the information, and so tomorrow, actually, Steve's going to teach me how to create a video, one of those videos where you kind of see the slides and you hear somebody talking, so that I can put the presentation online for parents to see. And then there will be a series of other emails that will go out throughout the testing. The state has provided us with templates around kind of how to interpret the results. That'll be at the end, and some things in the middle about what their kids can expect to see, that kind of thing. They just came out with them earlier this week. I don't remember which day, but earlier this week. So I'm still figuring out exactly what will be the right time to send those out for parents. Then the SBAC program has more tools, interim assessments, which are designed to be given periodically to students throughout the year to see how well they're progressing toward what they'll need to do on the summative test. We haven't fully explored those yet, but we're hoping to utilize those next year. And then there's the digital library, which is a warehouse of formative assessment tools and other Common Core tools for teachers. And again, that is just now getting functional, so we're going to explore that a little bit more and hopefully help teachers utilize that better next year. And then we have been doing some district local formative assessment. We have our reading assessments 3 times per year in the fall, and we just had our winter assessment in January, at the end of January. For that one, we had 89% of the students with scores, which means we're still working on data collection, which you guys know our struggles with that. It's really difficult. We're trying to utilize Google Docs and have the teachers put their scores into that. But again, it's hard to be timely with the information. And so by the time we are able to determine which teachers have turned in scores and which haven't, it's kind of too late to really ask them to do the assessment. So anyway, 89% of the students K-5 had scores, and of them, 67% of the students were at or above grade level expectation, which is very much in line with what we saw at this time last year. So that's that. And then the principals are able to look at those scores and see which students are not at grade level and make sure they're receiving the kind of interventions that they need. The writing assessments, we are just this year in our first full implementation year of Writers Workshop. The teachers had the training this summer. And so rather than turning in scores, we're having the grade level teams at each school site meet with the principal and talk about what strengths they're seeing in the students' writing and what weaknesses. And then the principals submit a summary to the district office so that we have a sense of what's going on. Pretty universally, the strengths and struggles were similar across all of our sites. And it's really that shift to the deeper level writing that students need to be doing with the Common Core. We're doing much better at our students sticking to a topic, which has been a struggle in the past, and using structure for their writing, but elaborating and using evidence are areas where the teachers see room for improvement. And then lastly, we have our embedded Mars tasks that came along with the SVMI units that our teachers developed this year. The first round we did, similar to the writing, we did reflection sheets with teachers, and they talked about what were the students' strengths and weaknesses that were coming up. And then for the second round, we did collect the data and again did the reflections with the teachers. We have the North County Math Collaborative, they're all collecting the data on that second unit, so that gives us a place to look for trends in the future altogether. And then Steve's up. Yeah.
Talk a little more about our service to targeted populations.
We have a question.
Oh, sorry. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no.
Really quickly. With SBAC, I remember one of the promises of SBAC was the idea that because it was adaptive, it would take less time. And that does not seem to have occurred, and I'm just wondering.
For students? to
Yeah,
take
for
the test?
students, because the idea was that because it was adaptive, you wouldn't have to ask students questions, like, they would be, the test would be like, okay, I get it, you already know that, and it would move on.
And we're just now starting this year with the adaptive tests. Last year, the field test was not adaptive. And, so what we're going by is the recommended time that you're supposed to have the kids in front of the computer. They recommend for the ELA and the math that they do 45 minutes, 2 sessions for math, and then 45 minutes twice for ELA. Now at Valimar, for the older kids, we are seeing that so they scheduled 1-hour sessions just because, just 45 minutes seemed like, are we gonna be cutting it too short? And in that 1-hour session, most kids are finishing the 2 45-minute components. So we are seeing that, and what they, and another thing we're seeing is that they're not all getting the same length test, right? Some are getting 40 questions, some are getting 46 questions, and so it's really showing that the computer is adjusting and trying to really pinpoint their level. What when we went to the training, Jill and I went to the state training, they showed us, how the computer starts right with that first question, gives them a range of what their score is likely to be, and as it is able to narrow and narrow and narrow that range, then it stops the test. So we may see that it ends up taking shorter, but they recommended that amount of time for the kids.
Thanks.
Thank you for asking.
So, and Matt, I guess we're thinking about the same thing, because I'm real curious about the adaptive testing too. And one of the things about the adaptive testing is it was supposed to be, they said it was more motivating. The kids didn't just get 100 questions, they just start bubbling C or whatever. And so have you kind of peeked in to see if the kids are hanging in there pretty well? Or?
Yeah, and what I see is less anxiety, which is really interesting to me. And I don't know if that's just because we haven't gotten to the high stakes nature of this test yet. We haven't been seeing the scores, we haven't been, seeing them reported in the paper and the teachers being anxious, if that is gonna all result eventually in more test anxiety. But it used to be 2nd and 3rd graders were it was so traumatic. You hated to just set that test in front of them, and the teachers were so wonderful at trying to make it fun for them. But now, they go into the computer lab and it's just like everything else they're doing. It's like the ST Math, it's like their typing program. It's familiar to them, and they are not seeming to have much anxiety at all.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Now you're on.
Let me talk a little about the targeted populations that we're serving. And we have 8.4% of our students are English learners. That's a growing number. 20%, about 1 out of 5 of our students are socioeconomically disadvantaged. And we have 7 students who are foster youth. One of the ways we've been supporting them is with data conversations with principals, both personal conversations and in the curriculum meetings, where we look at some of the district assessment data that's come and maybe match the reading data with the CELT scores when that came out. They received a watch list of students who are being reclassified from language learners to fluents, and those students get watched for 2 years. And I'm really happy to say that our English learners have met all annual measure of objectives, including on the CELT, which is the state English language test, and on reclassification. In fact, in 2013, we reclassified 7 students from language learner status to fluent status. In 2014, that number went up to 26, and this year it's looking like it will be 57 students. That's It's really exciting. And also, we have this year a district-wide ELD team, and it's really focusing on Sunset Ridge and IBL, where we have so many English learners. And we've been getting support there from the SMCOE ELD specialists, who have not only come to those meetings, but they've gone to the sites, they've worked with teachers at Sunset Ridge. One of them helped us plan a professional development day to look at the new ELD standards. Our instructional approach for English learners has been an integrated model, which is to say that the ELD is integrated into the core content instruction, particularly in language arts. And so, for example, as we're teaching the Common Core, or transitioning to that, in English language arts we use balanced literacy, or Teachers College Reading and Writing Project. And that is a wonderful program for offering differentiated instruction for language learners or struggling students, because kids are reading instead of the old-fashioned basal where you just go through and everyone reads the same thing no matter what their level is. They're reading at their level, just a little stretch above, and teachers are able to pull groups and work on the specific things, like with language learners, on the specific things in that story that are pertaining to the language skills those kids are working on at the time. So it's a very helpful model. And for math, we're using the SVMI transitional units that were described earlier. And that's just helping because, you know, our old curriculum, the new curriculum isn't even out yet, and yet we're being held to the standards. So the old curriculum was written to California standards, and these are helping with the transition. We also have research-based software. There's something called Imagine Learning. If you ever get a chance to see it, or I'd be happy to show it to you, it's fantastic. It's for elementary kids, basically, who arrive as new students. And the interface even may be in Russian at the beginning. If they're a Russian student, you just see them like smile all of a sudden. And it's really engaging and it's fantastic. To skip down, we're looking for a program that would work for English learners in middle school grades, because there really isn't anything yet. We're exploring maybe using Rosetta Stone or something like that for those who are just arriving and really need help with conversational English. In ST Math is a wonderful way of reaching language learners because you don't actually need language to use it. It's conceptual based, it's very visual, and so your understanding of English doesn't get in the way of learning the math. We also have, and actually I meant to have this last item out a level because it's not software, but leveled literacy intervention is a strategy of intense support for students who really need help with reading, where they work in very small group instruction with trained teachers on very strategic reading skills for a certain period of time. And it has a very good history behind it, and we're really getting behind it this year. Other program support is We Teach Science, in spite of its name, it's for math. And we have middle school students that we match up with mentors who actually spend the day working at Google or other places, and the student will have an audio conversation with them, but they're looking at a shared screen, and this person is helping them with their math struggles. We also are, again, able to offer the after-school STEM program at all of our schools at least once, sometimes twice, in one case 3 times at IBL this year. And kids are learning coding, they're learning design and 3D printing, and also robotics. The county was gracious to renew the grant for homework centers that enable us to support students after school. And we're also offering additional software for kids who need it. Times Attack is just a fun way to practice math facts. Addition, subtraction, multiplication, division. Imagine Learning, we're trying that on struggling readers, not just language learners. The vendor claims it's very helpful. We're trying that to see if it's actually useful. And All the Right Type, well, kids, the new test is on computers, and kids have to use keyboards. And so we've purchased licenses for grades 2 through 5, and in middle school as needed, to take kids through this typing program so that they can learn touch typing. And then there is individual school support using supplemental site files. Some of our next steps, Dina, your initials are at the bottom, but I'm doing this slide, right? Okay. Some of our next steps, we will continue to use district assessments, and as we're expecting to have a data analysis and reporting tool next year that will really empower the data conversations to be more powerful, more real-time, more reports that look at more variables. This is our baseline year for the Smarter Balanced Assessment. That means that students will receive individual reports, which will be sent home, but it will be actually 3 years before trend data is being able to be shown with districts. We will continue to offer professional development around the new ELD standards beyond just the teachers at Sunset Ridge that we were able to spend time with this year. And we're looking at exploring alternate reclassification process for students with disabilities. And I'm talking about English learners who also have disabilities. And the traditional methods of assessing them, like the CELT test, will often measure their disability just as much as it will measure their English ability. So San Francisco has done some wonderful work about having an alternate process, and I found a contact who would like to work with me and help us develop something. And a couple people have already mentioned project-based learning today. Last week we had 19 teachers go to the county office to spend 3 days building project-based learning units. And PBL is just a really powerful way to reach multiple levels of students and multiple needs in your classroom. The language learners get lots of opportunities to practice the academic language. Kids are working on the different tasks at their level, and so and teachers are really able to individualize and customize the instructional experience. So we're excited to be underway with that. I look forward to supporting teachers as they deliver those lessons. And thank you. And are there any questions or comments about the whole update? So 2 questions. One was one of the things that I think was appealing about ST Math was that it's very sort of nonverbal, and so potentially helpful for English learners. And I was just curious if there's any feedback, having said to go ahead with it, how that is or isn't being helpful in our targeted populations. One thing that would be useful, one of the things that makes it sort of hard with ST Math to see its effectiveness is that you measure the effectiveness by how far the student has progressed, because it's computer adaptive. So when they're making progress, they move on to more levels. And because it's being used for different amounts of times by different teachers and different places, it's hard to actually track that. We end up using the data that the company provides to tell us about its effectiveness. But because it's not like everyone's using ST Math for this amount of time, this every day, there are enough individual variations that it's hard to do a scientific tracking of that.
It's a program that we approved and have invested a lot in, so it would be nice to have, some actual reports, some hard data reports on how well that investment is working and moving our students along.
Okay, and I will talk to, we have a representative that we deal with, and I've talked to her in the past. I'll work with her to see what we could get that would be indicative of progress, including with language learners.
Okay, thanks. Kathy, you got a question?
I just had a comment that, seeing all of this sort of with fresh eyes, a thank you to our leadership and the teachers and everyone who is, supporting the students in all these different manners with so much new technology and, new. it must feel a bit like a whirlwind at times, but, so I just want to, say a vote of thanks to everyone.
It's fun, it's exciting.
Yeah, so to go back for a second, I meant to say when we were talking about the CASP, that as long as we're handing out thanks, like Nelson and Tina deserve like huge thanks for making that work, because that was an enormous lift. So to hear that, like, okay, like the real test is here and we're doing it and absolutely nothing has actually gone wrong so far is really kind of huge. Like, I think, and there are bound to be some hiccups along the way, but I think given how much we had to do to get ready for this in the space of like 2 years, that's very large. And then again, to go back to Steve, I wanted to ask a little bit about multiculturalism in the curriculum, because we have, obviously there are achievement gaps with English language learners and socioeconomically disadvantaged students, but there are also other achievement gaps that need to be addressed that aren't necessarily income based. And one of the things that I've noticed is that we do, I've noticed that like teachers do make an effort to reach out in that way, just because from their heart they realize that that's what their students need. But I'm just wondering if there's any thought to doing this in sort of a more systemic way of customizing the curriculum to reach certain students, like in terms of, say, the reading that they would be given in balanced literacy or something like that.
I can respond to that in relationship to the TC Reading and Writing Project, because we did bring that up as a comment and a request, because just our state alone is has so many different ethnicities, and they do say that we use a particular resource called BookSource, and that's where our teachers will go when they're buying their leveled readers for their classroom libraries, and I guess the librarians go there too. And the Teachers College trainers are the ones who help to keep loading the types of titles, or at least we know that they've been vetted. And one of the areas that they do look for is multiculturalism, and making sure that there is some representation in the books and the social science. They try to really do some matching of social science. The difficulty, of course, is they're on the East Coast and from the West Coast, so our standards don't necessarily align. But I do, because we did ask that question as well, are you thoughtful when you are selecting the titles? And they say that they do use that lens. So I know that that's one of the things that Teachers College does do, and we do rely on their resources a lot.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, so 56 reclassified ELs this year, and then 20-something before. So that's a lot. That's a big difference. What do you attribute this to?
I think part of it is having someone at the district office who is charged with really focusing on it this year. That it wasn't just a clerical assignment, as it had been a little bit the past couple of years, but we really looked at it in the curriculum council with the principals. We talked about it. They went back, they talked to their staff. I know Sunset Ridge had a meeting where the teachers were just working on it at that time, doing nothing else, for example. So I think that helped, and I wouldn't be surprised if we're starting to see some of the effects of things like balanced literacy, where kids had been practicing language and using it more as part of their instruction, and it's helped them move faster.
Thanks. And Tina, for you, so students and parents will be getting those reports, and then do we get any kind of summary reports that you're going to be able to share with us next year? Or?
Right, so I assume the state will be providing us with the same kinds of reports that they did with the STAR. But we know that they won't be creating any kind of API or AYP this year. There's not going to be any judgment of how well the school did or the district did. So yeah, of course, I'll share with you whatever we get.
Okay, so somewhere there'll be like a state report, so we'll know the kind of the state average and for the different grade levels, and we'll be able to compare ourselves on that.
And
Are they going to do that comparison? Okay.
that's my understanding, is that they will give us the scores. They even are including on the score reports the average for that grade level from the field test, so that parents can compare their child's level with the average level for their grade on the field test. But they did caution, SBAC, is cautioning that we're looking at probably about a 1/3 proficiency rate, 33%, 35%, something in there of proficiency, because these are tests that are based on the Common Core, which was written at an international standards level. We've been hearing for years and years that United States students, 2/3 of them don't measure up internationally, so we should expect to see that 2/3 of them are not going to measure up on this test, is what they're trying to help us understand. So that's one of the messages that I'm going to help parents understand, and we had a good discussion with a few parents that were at my meeting on the 19th, and that will continue. We really need to look at it as a tool to help us understand how to improve our systems in our education for our students.
So will we get to compare SBAC state with Park states? Do you think?
That's a very good question, I have no idea. I know one thing they told us not to compare is SBAC results to CST results. They used a completely different scale for numbering, so we won't even be able to, the numbers won't compare. I guess you could still compare proficiency rates, but they just caution you against doing any comparison like that. But I don't know about the SBAC in the park, that's a good question.
We should at least be able to compare to other SBAC states.
Yeah. Okay. All right, we shall see.
Yeah.
Thank you. Okay, thanks. All right. Next, we have, I know we're at the gate thing. Oh, here we go, 11F, gifted and talented education.
So, a few meetings back, I did bring forward the board policy and AR for gifted and talented student programs. For many years, our district has not had what we would call a gifted and talented program. In some school districts, it might be a specialized school. In some, they have a school within a school where certain grade spans have gifted and talented students are identified, and in a particular classroom, like it might be grades 6 through 8, might have all the gifted students in one class. That's the types of programs that they had. And it started basically when the state provided funds for these programs. So along with having funds for a gifted and talented program, you need an assessment to determine who are gifted and talented students. So that's when the assessment process started. So as funding shrank and now we are no longer receiving categorical program money, it's all folded into LCFF, so it becomes a district decision, what types of programs you have, et cetera, except for, again, the targeted populations, we do need to support them. We had the conversation about gifted and talented education, and since we do not have a program in our district per se, the board at that time decided to delete that because it's an optional board policy and administrative regulations, simply because if you don't have a GATE program, you don't need a board policy or an administrative reg. So I did bring that forward to Leadership Council. Leadership Council has our principals along with some of our other administrative staff that we deleted that board policy. but we would continue to do the assessment piece and the identification piece. And we all had a robust conversation around, well, then why are we still continuing the assessment? And so after we sat and talked about it, we realized that it's very important to address the needs of all students in our classrooms, but is that assessment going to be something that triggers us doing that? And so Karen Nusty and Dan Little from two of our schools, principals from two of our schools, volunteered to be representatives of our schools to talk should the trustees have some questions, because the feeling that we got from our conversation was, no, you don't need to be labeled gifted and talented necessarily to be provided a strong, robust program. And if there were some, because there are some exceptional students that we have that are on this whole end of a different scale of giftedness, and it could be in music as well, or any type of gifted trait, then we do support them on a case-by-case basis, either through the school or, sometimes Tina has had the conversation with some of our parents on what we can do, what else we can do to support the child, so that we know that we're meeting the needs for all of the different groups of students that we do service. So at this time, and I wanted to bring this for discussion and information to the trustees, we're feeling that to do an assessment, especially in the way that we're doing it, it's very limited in scope. It's not really bringing service to the students, and therefore we are thinking that we would like to drop that piece, since we don't have programs anyways to have them go to. So.
You go first.
I was just wondering, I know Ortega had a GATE program that the PTO supported for a long time, and I'm not sure if they still have it. But how long has it been that the district hasn't been receiving funds for this?
Well, I want to say it was probably, because what they did was in 07, 08, or whenever it was, and then we took all of those categorical kinds of monies, the gifted and talented, et cetera, and we put it in one pot, and it went into general funds. I think that's when it just all started to, all these specialized programs started to just flatten out. So it's been quite a few years.
So when you say robust conversation, that's with the principals?
Mm-hmm.
And so what was the overall feeling about their dropping this?
Well, yeah. We had a discussion and felt that we're doing a real good service for all of our students within the classroom environment that the students are in with the teachers, and that the test itself was serving no purpose other than to just label a student and not necessarily label them in a manner that would be helpful for them or for the teaching staff. Dr. Tucklow said it that to be GATE identified doesn't necessarily mean in language arts or mathematics. It can be in any variety of things, and what we're not doing is testing students in all those varieties of different things. If students are showing a propensity or a predilection for a particular thing, as music or art, all of our schools have those types of programs to meet those students' needs without having to have a test to show that they're talented. Further, it's almost subjective as to who is being tested, because it's being a recommendation from the teachers, and it's not necessarily, there's some students that might not get the test or be tested that should have, and some that did take the test that, I don't think that, in my personal opinion, I didn't feel that there was a real need to have this label for the students when we're doing such a great job at meeting the needs, diverse needs of kids in the classrooms.
I think in addition to that too, it's the way that it's structured right now leads to, a very defined amount of students being gate classified per the test. And so at the 99th percentile on that test, it's like one, student in a school. So there's very many talented students and very many high achieving students. And I think, we feel like it's our job to look at individual needs in a lot of different areas. And that's more the approach we would like to go with rather than looking at a specifically designed test that just looks at one area and way of thinking.
Is, with the assessments only, is there any advantage or disadvantage if they're applying to a private high school to be able to have that on their application that they were gate identified? Would that be taking that option away from them?
I talked about this today with our, with the school secretary actually at Ocean Shore a little bit, and we just sort of ran through, I wanted to make sure I was kind of thinking through all the different pieces of it, but it is not something that we put on a transcript. It is a piece of paper that can go in a CUME folder, but it's, as far as I know, not something that's utilized for any placement or any application process to a private school. I don't know if you know any differently.
And private schools have their own assessments when students go to apply anyway. And so this would just be like Karen said, another piece of paper in the student's CUME folder, not necessarily
something that would help make or break in getting them.
eligibility for a school.
And the other piece to the CUME folder is that then there are, if there's one that is gate identified, there's all the rest that are not gate identified with those papers in the CUMEs. And when I really started looking through, some of the stacks of them and looking through some past CUMEs too, that also, I wasn't so sure that's good for all kids either,
So a couple of things. One, my 22-year-old daughter actually was identified as gate, and there were actually funds at that time. And I have to say, the gate support, it really wasn't much, even though it was funded. And personally, having been so involved in the schools for so many years, I kind of feel like all the schools are sort of gate programs. I mean, we do so many supplemental things on so many levels that it's almost like it's just sort of embedded. That's just a personal opinion. But my question was, if we go forward and we don't do these specific assessments that you've been using, if we don't use that identification process, but we want to meet their needs, so you're saying that it's happening in the classroom, so it's just sort of a natural thing that's occurring with the teachers as they get to know their students and just supporting all different levels? So if you're in math and you have somebody very gifted in math, you are just going to either advance them or give them additional work, or is that what you're?
That's been my practice so far here. So, and it has happened in math, and it has happened in, language arts has happened sometimes in other kinds of ways with, additional experiences within the classroom, or there's a lot of ways to enrich, a student's experience. Math is, of course, a tricky one, but we have done it on an individual basis when we need to.
So just more of a natural occurring rather than more testing, which...
Well, and we have our formative assessments that are built in. So the teachers are getting feedback on a student's capability throughout. So a student can be quite gifted when they're doing a geometry topic, and then not so much when they get to the algebra topics, and vice versa. And so I think that there is that ebb and flow between when they're getting, able to access those enriched type activities and when they need some remediation. And our structures with the reading and writing workshop and working with SVMI, we have a lot of ways that our teachers are equipped to handle that. I'm sorry for jumping in. Just wanted to point out, we do have other assessments that are ongoing for all students all the time.
Thank you.
Did you have a question?
Yeah, I did want to say, I agree. I think that the the test is not helpful if nobody believes that the test is measuring anything particularly useful, and there's no program to put kids in if they do well on it. I don't really see why I don't know why we've been given it all this time. But I did want to say, at the board level, what has happened is we eliminated the GATE program because there were no funds, and then we eliminated the GATE policy, and now we eliminate the GATE test. And I'm not particularly fond of the term gifted and talented anyway, but I do think that there should be something at the board level that says this is how we would like to handle this area. So that's sort of what I would like to see something, because otherwise I feel like what it could say is, well, who cares then? There's no program, there's no assessment, so we don't really need to do that. And like I said, I don't know that anyone really, and I don't think that anyone on the ground really thinks that. But there's a lot of demands being made on teachers. So it feels like if this is something that's considered to be important, then there should be some kind of document that lays out how we think it should be handled. I feel like balanced literacy works really well for that. Balanced literacy is sort of this natural leveler. You don't need to have a gifted reading program, because those kids will automatically be leveled at what they're doing. So I think that seems to work very well, at least through middle school. Math, as you said, is more complicated, and I feel like given the algebra wars of the last 2 years, I feel like that's still something that we could work on, is what are we going to do about that? Because I feel a little bit like what we've said is, this is, if I was in the community, what I would hear is, in ELA, we believe that people should be leveled because everybody gets, you're on level Z and you're on level Q or whatever, and so you read books on your levels. But in math, we actually don't believe that should happen at all. And I don't know I don't know what that would look like. I don't know, but, you see what I'm saying? I don't think that that's what's happening, but.
Right. And I think that's where we have to be a little bit more explicit with, and again, we're focusing on trying to even adopt math curriculum, and we're not finding one that really kind of meets the needs of Common Core. So we're all moving through this, but the way that we can ensure that instead of having, let's say, a board policy or AR that calls out GATE itself, you put that in your curriculum plans, and that's where it should lie. What are we doing to address the needs of all of our students? The gifted, the talented, the English learner, the not proficient, the one who may have some areas of strengths and weaknesses at periods of time. So I think that if we start looking at our plans from that lens and ensure that we are really looking at the spectrum of all of the student populations, we will be able to address that. I think it's like you said, TC Reading and Writing Workshop really lends itself to that, and I think we're right now at that point where one of the encouraging things that I'm hearing, and this is just anecdotal, is I'm not hearing that there are a huge number of struggling 8th graders right now who are feeling like they're not being successful. Because usually where they're not being successful is in mathematics. Where, you're not hitting the GPA and you're not going to be able to do this. I'm not hearing a lot of that. And I really believe it's because we have gone to the Common Core, and I have nothing to back me up on this, but it's one of those gut feelings of the reasons why we said 8th grade is not the place to accelerate, because we want to be able to make sure that they have those mathematical practices and the foundational information and move into the high school arena. So I think that if we call that out and we're more explicit, I think, and as we're getting to know the transitional units better and what's being asked of our students, we will get stronger at being able to articulate it better. And clearly, there are some students who are just mathematically proponents, and so we do need to do something different for them. And what could that be? I think we still need to flesh out.
But you don't, I mean, I guess the thing is, like, I think that there's an acknowledgement that in reading, there's a natural wide variation, and I feel like in math, we want to go like, well, there might be like 3 incredibly super advanced students but that's not necessarily the case. Like, half the class might be like, I get it. Like, let's, we could go deeper into that. And I guess this is, I almost sort of want to turn to Andrea and ask.
I'm waiting for everybody else to talk, and I'm just keeping my mouth shut.
So, because, you said, like, I'm not hearing that we're having struggling students. That's awesome. We're not talking about the struggling students right now.
I didn't want to create that either. I mean, we do have that, but I think that what I'm seeing, or I'm hoping, is that we're hitting the mark with allowing the students to really focus on those mathematical practices and building that deep critical thinking piece and problem-solving piece that we have spent very little time on. So it's going to be real interesting for me to see how the SBAC does fare out, because those are the pieces we've not really tested before. And now we're going to really be able to put some data behind it and see how our kids are doing.
So next, Karen, next. I've just been holding my tongue for too long. So I feel like we, essentially made a promise to the community. We weren't going to accelerate the kids in elementary. And with that promise, we said, we'll take care of the needs top and bottom and in between. And I think that we need to keep that promise that we're going to, and we are having a good focus on the kids, on the struggling students. We're getting reports about this, and Steve's making a focus of that. I think we also need to hear where are students who are above the grade, and certain things, where we are serving those students too. And then, as a parent, I would feel like my kids' needs are getting met, in the middle schools and especially in the math programs, if I know that there is a good way to deal with enrichment and not just the kids that got it are teaching the other kids how to do it. That's a model that we've used for a long time, but that's not the model that we want in our schools. We want the kids that are at the top of the heap to get those real enrichments. Every student should get a rigorous math program. Apparently in Common Core, rigor means that all students get conceptual understanding, all students attain procedural fluency, and all students get real-world application. So that's everybody, from your struggling student to your top student. But your top student may need a more sophisticated application or a more sophisticated way to deal with the concepts, because their brain's trying to, wants to and is able to focus on some things that a student in the middle doesn't think about. So I think it would behoove us to get some kind of reports on what we're doing to differentiate in math. And I know that's a hard topic, and I'm there. I know differentiating math is much harder than with the ELA. And so it might be nice to hear what we're doing, what we're working on. There's my 2 cents about it. But as far as the gate testing, it's not a great test anyway. It doesn't really tell us who's really gifted. I think they're probably easier to assess in the classroom. Those gifted students, they pop out. Yes, Karen, sorry.
I was just going to point out that, in doing a little bit of research on GATE and looking at other districts and kind of looking online at the definitions around it, in talking about GATE, it isn't talking about the children who are in that regular variance, which is part of a potential conversation around how children fluctuate in language arts or math, and having high achieving or students that are, pushing boundaries around, grade levels or even the grade level next to them, that it's really about very specific subset of students in, particular areas. So yeah, I guess just to the point of the conversation, I think, that might be an important piece in this, that, mixing GATE with necessarily talking about that range of math are sort of looking a little bit at apples and oranges from my perspective as a principal.
So if I understand like that, because if I recall this, the GATE test was designed to catch 4% or something. There was some sort of extremely small number at the top. So it was sort of designed to really identify an extremely narrow segment of students. And I think what I'm hearing from up here, if at all, is that we're very interested in seeing how a wide range of students are doing, but we're not particularly interested in identifying 1% or 2% or anything like that. I think we just want to see that a wide variety of, a wide range of levels is handled, and we do believe that can be done in the classroom. I think what we're saying is that, what I'm saying anyway, I don't know what we're saying, but what I'm saying is that I'd like to see something like that. I'd like to see evidence of it, and I'd like to see it enshrined at a board level, that this is what we're looking for. And I think it's in line with what with what Karen and Dan are saying.
Yeah, some accountability on all ends. So, and not just CAS, because I think there's ways
Well, I think, like I said, probably this year has been our first year of truly implementing Common Core standards for mathematics. So I beg to ask for some time as we're working through our transitional units. The teachers have been at a 3-day institute last summer and continued the conversation. I think our district is really in a good place because we have been involved with SVMI, but we're calibrating ourselves now as far as the depth that we're going. So I think once we get through this year and really be able to see all of the transitional units and have our summer to kind of work on some of the pieces, I hope, I think that we'll be able to provide you with that information. At this particular time, I think that we're still very much in that implementation phase and trial phase, and we're still using Envision as kind of the core backbone, and we know that that's not robust enough. So we're working on it, and I think that the teachers are doing a tremendous job, the schools are doing a tremendous job of getting us there. But yeah, we need to be more explicit, I think, in how we're handling all of that. It's really what's very interesting, and just talking about how we have selected strong practices from the workshop model, is you will start seeing that in the math classrooms, when they're teaching mathematics as well. Because it's really around teaching to a big idea and then pulling small groups when they need that extra help. And then the other students are out, doing their task for their problem. They're solving their problem. So our structure of our teaching is very much aligned with that workshop model and allows for that differentiation to occur. But we do need to be more explicit, no doubt.
Thank you. Dan's keep wanting to get out of here.
Thank you.
So we don't need to do any action on this?
No, I just wanted to kind of let you know, and I appreciate your feedback and your support in understanding what our thinking is.
All right. Then on to 11H.
Okay, 11H is really a resolution around adequate and equitable school funding. You will hear there are a lot of different coalitions and organizations out there talking about school funding. Now what is starting to happen is, although, and it's a little frightening, because people are seeing that we every year we get a little bit more funds. We're not talking about cutting programs, and it's not called flat funding. We are getting incremental funds, but the local control funding formula is predicated on us getting more funds until 2020-21 is when this gap of the cuts that we have been experienced from 2007-08, I believe, till about 2010-11. We cut millions of dollars out of our budget. And so I think that what's starting to happen, and our goal at a state level is to reach the 07-08 funding levels. Well, that's really not good enough when you're in the 40s among the states. So this resolution is really to talk about having what we call an aspirational goal, as opposed to just, let's get the LCFF to 2020-21 and reach the 07-08. It also brings to bear, the resolution brings to bear the fact that along with the LCFF funds are also coming some additional requests that is really eroding the purchasing power that we're having with this achievement gap. With this the funding gap, that we're getting. So the additional funds that we're getting through the gap process, filling the gap process. And an example that I can share is the employer's contribution on STRS and PERS. That's going to be an additional hit to our LCFF funding, and there is not an additional formula out there or method in which to then raise what is being added on to us. It's just you take care of it in LCFF. So this resolution, should it be passed, really expresses that, to the legislators, that we really need to start thinking much more long-term and long-ranged about education, and we shouldn't be settling for just going back. We should really be looking at how we're really going to build a strong educational program for our students in the state of California and be the leaders that we used to be, because we no longer are. Question?
I agree. Okay, so we have a resolution. Do we need to read this resolution out loud?
No.
I'm assuming we've all read it as part of the
Okay.
packet.
Yeah, so, publicly, do we need to read this?
No.
No, okay. All right, so
But
we...
if you adopt it, I will send it to our state legislators.
All right, very good. So, we would, okay, I guess I'd like a motion on whether we'd like Wendy to send this to our state legislatures, this resolution.
I make a motion that we send it off with our love.
Do we have a
For
second?
all the good it will do.
For all the good.
Second, okay, let's put second. All in favor?
This motion passes 5-0.
Danielle, you're good.
She's like quick learner.
Okay, 11I, Josie's not here.
Yeah, so I will take that. And this is our third quarterly report on Williams uniform complaints. And I'm happy to report that we do not have any complaints. We do follow the policies and the procedures where, because we did ask and make sure that There are postings in every classroom to make sure that people know in the office on what they can do should they feel that there are not adequate materials, equipment, or if there are any issues with facilities. There are forms online, and usually we're able to remedy if there is a concern, because it might be an oversight on our part. So I have not heard of any real concerns about lack of materials or textbooks or inadequate facilities. But we do try to remedy it, but if forms are requested, that secretaries know that it's online, and so we can have access to it, and we print it out for the person. We went over it at Leadership Council just to make sure that our principals were aware, and they were pretty much on target with what they needed to do.
Okay. Thank you. Oh, now the part we've all been waiting for.
Yay.
Alright, so Ray will be first up to answer any questions on any of these manual maintenance 5,000 series. Starting with board policy and administrative regulation for 5125 student records. So does anybody remember what this, I remember what this is about. Reporting student records. I did not know that those records have to be kept some of those records have to be kept forever? Is that what that meant in there? We have to keep them.
Never.
Wow.
Permanent
For
record?
perpetuity, is that what's the wording?
Your permanent record.
It's a report. If it's on your permanent record, it's on your permanent record. Okay, well, any questions for Ray on that one? All right. I'm combining the two so that we can combine our questions there. All right, so the next one, AR 5141.21, administering medication and monitoring health conditions. And this one is a change for, can you explain, Ray?
So due to the new law, AB 2217, it clarifies that employees in districts are not held liable for civil damages resulting from the use of an AED, automated external defibrillator. And this AR gives districts the option of having language embedded in case a district chooses to have an AED on facilities on the district campuses.
And we don't make that decision whether we're going to have it in approving this AR. We just say that it would be okay to have them. Is that the point of this one?
You're on 5141, right?
Yeah.
Correct.
Okay. So we don't have it in the works to get the defibrillator.
Not at this time.
No, she's on 5141.21.
Point 21?
Point 21 is the other, is the.
It's the
EpiPen. Yeah.
You're on,
Sorry.
just, are you on AED or EpiPen?
AED we pulled because we wanted to have a board discussion
Okay.
about that.
Okay.
Because I think you all need to weigh in.
All right.
We don't have them.
All right, so 5141.21 is revised due to the new law, SB 1266, which does require districts to provide emergency epinephrine auto-injectors at each school site. And so the language in there reflects not only the new law, but what our school district is required to do to prepare staff for the usage of such EpiPens at each site.
Okay, so my question about this is, we have to provide, the parents don't have to provide it So we have to actually have that thing at every school site, at EpiPen.
So there's two ways an EpiPen can land on a campus. One is some parents do provide it because their child has an actual prescription that has been given by that child's medical provider, and they do bring that EpiPen to campus, and we keep it in a designated place. Now, according to this new legislation, SB 1266, we also need to have EpiPens on campus for emergency procedures. And the EpiPens are provided through a prescription that we receive now via the county office to all the districts in San Mateo County. Okay. And we're given an allotted amount, and if we were to get low, or the EpiPens get outdated, or we run out, we're able to request for more. Okay. More importantly was the training of the staff as well.
And it didn't say how many staff had to be trained.
Correct.
But we'll have one person trained?
We have, actually, Danielle,
Oh,
our new Student Services Administrative Secretary, has been part of that training process, and I believe we have a minimum of 2 per site. The trainings have been occurring this past week, and another training will occur again tomorrow for district staff. So we'll have at least 2 per site. And that can be a certificated or a classified staff member. They volunteer as the identified person on campus.
Can anyone volunteer, or can as many volunteer?
As many.
Because the more the better.
So, exactly.
Don't want to have to look for one person.
Right. And some of our principals have even volunteered to be trained.
Yeah, that would make sense to
Yeah.
have an administrator trained.
And since my understanding, these are for people visit, either parents volunteering or people, or a child that hasn't had a reaction before, one that does not already have one prescribed to them on campus.
Correct.
So someone that it's a first-time event, that they don't have one.
Right.
Okay.
As usual, a special thank you to all the people who volunteered to
Yeah.
take on yet another legally imposed duty that nobody told them they would have to take on. But as a more general point, I think what's upsetting about these laws in general is that they essentially codify into law the fact that they know no one's ever going to have a school nurse because the state won't pay for them. Like, so it essentially amounts to saying, like, well, we've accepted that we're never going to give you the money for school nurses, so we're just going to make ordinary employees responsible for carrying out medical duties. And I think that's a really troubling trend. Like, especially because, as you said, the objective here is, well, if a student has never had a reaction before, and they suddenly have one, we of course want to be prepared for that. On the other hand, no one on campus has the medical training to actually be able to properly identify an anaphylactic reaction. So it could, hopefully, they're like, oh, this must be because they ate the peanut butter at lunch, but how would they realistically know that? I just think, and as a general thing, it's really, really troublesome that we're asking people to do that. But I'm very thankful that they've agreed to do it.
So the state really is giving us permission to tell people they can practice medicine without a license?
Yeah, essentially they can give
have a certificate.
anti-seizure medication, they
Yeah.
can give insulin, they can give epinephrine, that's a not insignificant amount of medical responsibility, I think.
Yeah. I think any doctor would say that that's
I think they
a
would.
lot.
I think they would.
You should actually know maybe a little bit about medicine and anatomy and disease before giving out those medicines. Okay, but we should say that will probably be
That's
okay.
sad,
That
yeah.
it's going to happen, because it's a sad thing, and that's. All right, next, health examinations. This would be AR 5141.3. So this was about a change for the grade levels for the vision tests? Or the-
Correct. Yeah, it switches up when students are going to be given their vision and hearing screening. For example, the hearing screening now are at the following grade levels: 1st, 2nd, 5th, and 8th, as opposed to kindergarten. And then it also goes into the upper grades, which don't pertain to Pacifica School District. But it also, this AR also discusses the new law SBH 852, which suspends the requirements for districts to no longer give scoliosis testing.
So, and we have been doing those in 7-8 for, yeah, so this will be our last year to do those.
Correct.
Okay, well,
But we will continue on with vision and hearing.
that means you would have to go to a real doctor to be diagnosed with scoliosis. That's a good thing. Okay. Anything else for Ray on that one? Okay. Okay, so now we're on to BP 5141.4 and AR 5141.4, Child Abuse Prevention and Reporting. Can you go over just kind of cursory the changes in this one?
Sure. So with this new law, AB 2016, students are provided instruction in sexual abuse and sexual assault awareness. It was optional for a district to choose that type of curriculum. We currently don't have that, so we chose the option to not implement that. But also within this BP and AR is the new law AB 2560, and it requires anybody new or renewing their credential to sign a statement that they understand their obligation as a mandated reporter. And that's the biggest impact for our district, is to make sure that anybody new coming into our district and an annual awareness of mandated reporting, and we must also train them in what their obligations are for mandated reporting. So AB 1432, there's all kinds of laws embedded in here, addresses what are the requirements that districts must provide for that annual training of mandated reporting.
So you say when they renew their credential, they need to make sure they're trained, but we're training them yearly anyway?
We're training them annually anyways.
And then that gets reported to CDE and the credential
Correct.
folks and everything?
And we are to keep a log of that for auditing purposes.
I just wanted to say for the record, I'm not, I realize that we recently went through our health education, program. I don't know what's available in those areas. But the idea of having a curriculum where we taught kids what child abuse and sexual abuse is, so that they knew how to protect themselves and how to ask for help if they needed it, seems like a sort of no-brainer. And I realize that's additional, that's additional responsibility, and maybe it's not in any curriculums that we looked at. I don't know how the state in what way the state expects us to integrate those, but it does seem like that might be valuable.
So under the optional section, if a district chooses to implement that type of curriculum, it's a course of study for grades 7 and or 8, which may include parenting skills education, including instruction on child abuse and neglect. The instructional program shall also include age-appropriate and culturally sensitive child abuse prevention curriculum. The curriculum shall explain the student's right to live free of abuse, include instruction in the skills and techniques needed to identify unsafe situations and react appropriately and promptly, inform students of available support resources, and teach students how to obtain help and disclose incidents of abuse. So it is a specific curriculum that is built around those areas.
And that's the option we didn't take?
Correct.
Because we currently don't do it, and I don't know if the curriculum we use has a component of it. So if it's of interest to the board, we could look at it, we could look into it through, the Health Wellness Committee And, I mean, because I wanted, last year we did an alignment with our health curriculum. This year, and as I said, one of the things I'd like to do is to really have someone who's kind of like Steve said, when we have someone who's really monitoring or asking the questions and whatever, then we know. Right now, we've provided binders per grade level for teachers to cover so that we do have a continuity with health education throughout our district. Sex ed was all over the board, and so we've selected a curriculum. We know which grade it's going to be covered in, and or discussed and taught, and so we can take a look at those materials to see, because it's a pretty broad-based curriculum. Can't remember the name of it, but it has videos and discussion points that teachers can have with the students. We really only have one health teacher in our district who is credentialed in that, although multiple subjects and can teach it. So I just feel like, we're not probably the strongest in that arena of our health education program. And one of the things that nurses have done, school nurses actually, is to really teach that particular piece of the health curriculum, because it is difficult for a lay teacher to have these conversations with students. And so I've been fortunate to work in districts where that's one of the nurses' roles, is to have those conversations. So, we can take a stab at it for next year, for sure.
Right now, I have 2 ninth graders, and they delve into a lot right now in health class. And so even if we had just like an introduction.
Right, and that's what we do,
Yeah.
It's, of course, it's grade level appropriate. But yeah, we could look into that.
I think, yeah, definitely looking into that curriculum for their awareness. For at least 7th and 8th grade, if not some younger. I know
Right.
programs for younger.
Well, and the only thing that's sort of flashing in my mind is, you do, even with the sex ed discussions, there is a segment of our parental population who does choose to opt out. So that would have to be
Part of it.
Does that option, was that option 1 or option 2, does that say anything about an opt-out?
It didn't have an opt-out on there. Let me look again.
Maybe they couldn't opt out of that one.
It says, no, they can opt out of the sexual abuse prevention part, but
Okay.
not the child abuse prevention part that I see here. It says, so the district's program may also include age-appropriate curriculum in sexual abuse and sexual assault awareness and prevention. Upon written request of a student's parent guardian, the student shall be excused from taking such instruction. But I don't see that for the child abuse section.
Anything else? No? All right, ready, we're getting there. Okay, we did the, okay, we're down to 5144.1, suspension and expulsion to process both the BP and the AR. Can you go over the changes?
So, new law, AB 420, it prohibits districts from expelling any student and from suspending students in grades K through 3 for disruption or willful defiance. That's the gist of the revisions for this BP and AR.
That's a pretty major change. So is that the state's way of trying to lower the suspension and expulsion rate by taking that away?
Yeah, I think there's been a lot of
And I think
attention
it's
to
had quite an
to
impact.
willful defiance and, you know, that it being this
And it's-
catch-all
And it's also
category.
to spotlight possible disproportionality of suspensions for different groups.
Yeah. Yeah, so that's good action. Any questions for her? Oh,
Wendy, I didn't know, I wanted to request something that might be in connection with this. And I had emailed Wendy, and I wanted to ask the board if we could review, let's see, I think it was 514511, and that's questioning and apprehension of law enforcement in the schools. Because if they're getting expelled, it's probable that they did something, to break, to cause a crime or something. And I did a little research, and this prison, or the school-to-prison pipeline, a lot of it is because the children, when they're at school, they are essentially confined, they just can't leave. And so when an officer is with them in a room, they're not given their right to remain silent. And so, if anything goes further, then that can be used against them, or it can be thrown out. And so I was looking over our, that bylaw when this one came up, and I thought maybe it would be good if we reviewed that, and possibly seeing what other districts who are being proactive are doing to give the kids their constitutional right to remain silent when the police is in, at school. So, like, if they came, we could say, are you going to arrest me? He'd say no, and we could go, okay, well, we're gonna leave then. A child doesn't have that thinking because they may be too young to understand. And so out of curiosity, I asked my 9th graders, when did you guys learn about the right to remain silent? And they said, 8th grade. And so we're K through 8 district. And so essentially, all of our children, until they get to 8th grade, aren't going to know that right if they're in the principal's office. And they also don't have the right, the way our bylaws are written, is to have their parent called except for after they're questioned by the law enforcement. And so it's just something that I was hoping we could review at a later time.
so we can't have a discussion on this right now, but we can maybe have a little presentation on this one?
Future agenda item.
Okay. Good, thanks for picking that up.
Andrea, also embedded in this VP and AR 5144.1 is the new law SB 1111, which provides that if a student is not recommended for expulsion, that student must be permitted to return to the classroom and/or instructional program from which the expulsion referral was made. So, just wanted to add that.
So do we have in-house suspensions?
We do.
We do. So that part is says you can't do an in-house suspension instead of an expulsion, is that what that's saying?
No. This is strictly for an expulsion. If a child is recommended for expulsion, and generally what happens in the process of that is the child is on a suspension pending expulsion. If the expulsion is not approved.
So not board approved?
Correct.
Okay.
Then that child can return back to the classroom and the school site where they came from.
Okay. Thank you.
Prior to being recommended for expulsion.
Thanks, Ray, because I didn't understand that one, so
Yeah.
I have a bunch of questions on this, on these two.
So, are these still Ray's? Oh, no, this is
Yeah.
supposed to be Wendy's.
No, I'm still on the suspension expulsion.
Oh,
I got-
sorry,
I still
sorry.
have- I got a bunch of stuff.
Oh, okay. Good.
This is, so in the AR, there's a section on board suspension, that it says is optional, and I'd like to propose we delete that because I really can't see any situation in which the board would suspend somebody without a recommendation from staff. Like, that's what it said in there. It said that, boards are allowed to suspend students, but they rarely do because why would, so I feel like that's almost an abuse of power. Like, if a board member was to propose that a student be suspended or expelled, I don't really know how we would have enough knowledge of that situation to do that. So that's my first proposal. And you could, everyone can, let me sort of throw them all out there, and then people can go. There's also a section on county expulsion hearings. We don't contract with the county for expulsion hearings, we do them here. So I feel like we should delete that as well because we don't do them. So if we decide to do them, we can put it back in the policy, but until then, I feel like it should be there. And then the last thing that I think we should discuss is the new law that you were mentioning says that the district can't expel for willful defiance or disruption, and it can't suspend K through 3 students, but teachers can. And this is the part that I thought was really a little bizarre to me, is it specifically mentions in the AR that, and this is optional, so we don't have to allow it, but that we can allow K through 3 teachers to suspend kids in K through 3 for willful defiance or disruption. And I would like for the board to maybe discuss whether that's something that we ought to consider striking as well, because I'm really having trouble I know second graders can be real monsters, but I don't know that that should really be an option on how to deal with them. I don't know, just throwing those 3 things out there.
And just to give you a little feedback of what my understanding is, when a teacher chooses to suspend a child from his or her classroom, it doesn't necessarily mean they're going home. It could mean an in-house, quote-unquote, in-house suspension, and the child remains at school but is relocated to a different area. It could be the principal's office or a different classroom for instruction. And the one thing that I think we would need to check, Matt, is I believe there is contract language that allows teachers to have this choice. And so we would, before the board makes a decision, I would want to confirm that we're not violating contract language.
Okay.
Okay.
I kind of agree with Matt. If they're kindergarten, they're children, so I think pulling them out of the classroom, if it's an in-house suspension and they're in the office or in a separate room doing work, that, I don't know if the board's open to that, instead of just not doing anything at all.
And that's
actually what it is.
That's what it is. That's what would
K through 3.
happen. But you wouldn't send them home and
Principal's office.
do a suspension form. That's not. That's what
Right,
it is.
they would remain on campus, and most of the time what happens is they're placed in another same grade level classroom, which is with a different teacher until things are calmed down, because again, it's for willful defiance. And/or they make a trip to the principal's office.
Or they could be put in a different grade level
Yeah,
classroom too,
yeah.
This is where I won't have any audience, no one's watching. It's so dependent upon the issue and the student and what works and, that's why the schools really have.
So do we call those in-house suspensions if a teacher says, sends the kid to another classroom, has an agreement with the teacher next door to trade students? Does that get officially reported as an in-house suspension, or is that just a handshake?
It could be. I think it's up to the principal to make that decision. And then it could be, not.
But anytime a student is sent to the principal, that's recorded in some way.
Yes, most definitely. Principals usually keep a log of some sort. But again, I want to go back to, there is contract language that allows a teacher to make that decision. And basically what's happening is the teacher is removing the child they have, I believe the contract language allows them to go to a maximum of 2 days to be out of the actual classroom. And then from there, the principal will decide the result of what will happen with the child. Matt?
Okay, so can we just look over this, and I'll
So what
go ahead,
page is
it's
that?
on page 7 of the AR. So, it says, when suspending a student from class, the teacher shall immediately report this action to the principal or designee and send the student to the principal or designee for appropriate action. So presumably that does get reported. And it says, as soon as possible after the teacher decides to suspend the student, he, she shall ask the student's parent or guardian to attend a parent-teacher conference regarding the suspension. A counselor or psychologist may attend the conference if it is practical, and the school administrator shall attend if the parent, guardian, or teacher so requests. So this is a very formal thing. This doesn't sound like, okay, you go to Ray's class for the rest of the day. Like and then it keeps, it kind of keeps going like, a student suspended from class shall not be placed in another regular class during the period of suspension. So it sounds like that's what you're describing is not what they're describing here. So I don't want to, there's no need to go into it now, but can you maybe sort of look through those paragraphs and go like, does this reflect what we are, how does this jive with what we actually do? Like, do we need to provide this authorization to comply with the contract and do what it is that we're actually doing and so forth and so on? So, yeah. And I guess the other question is, if our contract says that they can suspend, well, I guess the contract doesn't say anything about expulsion, so I guess it doesn't really, that doesn't really affect the law, but, okay.
Okay.
So, just clarification, you said that they could have up to a 2-day, is that,
Removal from class.
is that 2-day consecutive, or are you saying 2-day, like,
Consecutive.
so they could be removed from the class once a week for a while?
Removal from a particular class shall not occur more than once every 5 school days.
But that's like
That's
2 days, that could be
Yeah.
2 days a week for every week, right? I mean,
Obviously
Yeah,
our
well-
teachers are not, but, I would think it would flag, but the only other thing that I do want to say about putting children into other classes is, I was aware of that happening where older child was put into a younger classroom because they were behaving like a younger child. And I think there was an element of shame that was not the same as removing a child that just needs,
Time.
needs time, the teacher needs time, everybody needs time. That I completely understand, but I just, that's the only little flag that sort of went up. But I do agree with Matt that what they're saying here is somewhat different from what we're discussing. So,
I think we're talking about two things. Removal from class is what we're talking about for contract language. This is talking about a child that can theoretically be part of an in-house suspension if the principal so deems.
but didn't you just say that removal, a teacher suspending a child from their class they could also put them in another classroom?
Yes,
Okay.
yeah.
So that probably wouldn't be deemed a
Suspension.
An
in-house
suspension.
suspension.
So is that
so
tracked
is it
then?
suspension or isn't it
Is it not?
suspension?
I'm confused because I thought you just said that is a suspension. And is that tracked? So if Matt's misbehaving in my class and I send him to Elizabeth's class, is that tracked by the principal?
Not necessarily.
Not necessarily.
It depends on, if it is truly an in-house suspension where they feel like the child cannot go back to the classroom, to their teacher's classroom, then I would think that the principal would want to start logging, because you don't want a situation where you're having a student not in the classroom more than going to somebody else's.
Right.
So I think that that's where the principals, we work with the principals, and they have their methods, especially K through 3. 4 through 5, I think they even start putting logging in the discipline. There's like a little discipline section on the SIS system. But we start monitoring and looking at students who may be having some needs to not be in the classroom, so that we can develop a behavior plan to support them. You know, what are the triggers? What are the antecedents in having the student get to this level of need, and then trying to make some best next steps and working with the families, etc.
So I'm sorry, I'm still very confused, because I thought that you were saying that if a teacher removes that child, that is an in-house suspension, they could put them in another classroom. That's not considered a suspension?
So what I'm saying is, if a teacher, per contract language, removes a child from their class, that child is going to, the principal is going to know that that child's been removed, because the teacher is going to confirm with the principal, I do not want this child in my class for the remainder of the day, or for the remainder of the next day, 2 days. The principal is going to make the choice. Is this because of the child's behavior or whatever? The principal is going to make the choice, is this an in-house suspension?
Okay.
Okay, I feel like we need this to come back on first reading with a more detailed explanation of what exactly is going on here, because I still feel like, it sounds like what you're saying is, the teacher can do X, and then the principal will decide whether we're calling it suspension or we're not, which is essentially allowing the principal to juke the stats of whether kids are getting suspended or not, right? Because if I call it a suspension, then that gets reported as a suspension and we find out about it. If I don't call it a suspension, I say it's just sending a kid to another class because they were bad, then the board never knows that this suspension occurred, because it's not a suspension. So I feel like I would sort of like to see, here's the contract language of what we said teachers are allowed to do, here's the practices that we actually do, and here's the procedure that we actually go through when this happens. Here are the options that are available to teachers in the case where this is occurring. Because, you know, like I said, what's in here is, it gets reported to the principal, the parents get called in, the counselor gets called in, all that is like part of the policy. Like, it sounds like, if I get sent to Elizabeth's class, that's not, I hate when that happens. It sounds like,
Because she's kind of mean.
that's not being called a suspension. My parents are not being called every time that happens, because honestly, if they were, that gives the parents the opportunity to see, like, okay, wait, this is occurring, like, what do I need to do at home? Like, do I feel like this is being handled appropriately? Like, it feels like that should happen if a disciplinary action is being taken, that the parents should be notified. And if it is, then it's a suspension and we need to log it and know about it. But, so does that seem like something that would seem reasonable to the board, that we could maybe do the next time this comes back?
Yeah.
And then I just wanted to ask how you guys feel about eliminating the board suspension and the county expulsion contract language.
Yeah, I think
That makes sense.
Yeah, I think giving the board the power to suspend a student doesn't seem appropriate.
It's weird. It's very weird.
And this whole piece here, that the district can't suspend, but the teacher can suspend, but we don't know how they're suspending K through 3. I think we need to figure this out a little bit.
Clarification.
Yeah.
Thank you, guys.
Will do.
All right, good. There you go. Okay. Next, we are at 12, okay, we're in 12, we're in the 9,000s, right?
Yeah, 12B.
What, first, oh, okay, BP 1250?
For minor revisions.
Okay. The revisions were really minor, weren't they? Okay, and there's a typo here.
Where?
Okay, so that's on page 2. It says, "The principal shall indicate it on the written permission, the dates and times."
Oh, that was wrong. Shall indicate.
Yeah,
Is this 1250?
I thought it was. Yeah, I got 1250 in my hand.
Oh, I thought I captured that, you know, when it goes online, you can't do it. Okay, I think I got that one. Yeah, thank you.
Just minor enough that we don't need Wendy to summarize? Or should we have Wendy summarize the difference? I
I'm
really.
good with the minor ones. That was really very,
I
those were some
really
very
appreciated,
minor.
Ray, that you summarized those for us because they were a little hard to kind of understand. Okay, but then, of course, 6159, we may need a little more. So this is just an AR? Yeah, this is just an AR. So this was a minor revision, and what was it? About IEPs.
On page 9.
So is this a, this isn't a big change for us?
It removes, yeah.
Okay, Wendy gets the easy ones, huh? And then 9321, closed session. Any clarifications needed on closed session? Didn't feel like much of a change to me.
It added the governor.
Oh, is that what, okay.
We can have a closed session with the governor. That's great.
And district legal counsel.
Let's call him.
Okay.
I'd like to have a closed session with you.
Really?
He'll be right out.
Let's talk about school funding.
He's in Tahoe measuring time.
All right, then back to Ray for 4030, non-discrimination in employment. So is the military was the only change in this whole thing?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. Anybody see anything else that was? Okay. All right. And then 5020, parents' rights and responsibilities.
So it added audio and video recordings.
Okay. All right, then how about 5141.27, food allergies and special dietary needs? Goes right with that EpiPen, doesn't it?
So we deleted concealed, and then we added provide rapid, convenient first aid.
Which would be an EpiPen. Okay. All right. Fun, good, all right. Now we are on to future agenda items. Thank you, Ray, thank you, Wendy, for all of those changes in policy. All right, so you have Laverne's future agenda, okay. Any other future agenda items?
The other thing that I wanted to bring, not on future agenda items, I don't know if anybody else had anything, but on the promotions,
Yeah.
did we want to?
Oh.
I have to go to the Ocean Shore promotions, so, or graduation. So Elizabeth, if, you don't need to come to that one if you don't want to. It's kind of a haul.
I have to go to IDL because I'm an 8th grader.
Well, you're on there. You have to feature it. So, Andrew, do you want to continue to go to the Cabrillo, or would you?
Do you want to trade with me, Elizabeth? Oh, you got LMEC already. Is Cabrillo's going to be in town?
The graduation?
Yeah.
To be determined, I have.
I'm not sure, sometimes it's up at Skyline, you mean?
Yeah.
Oh, that's closer than Woodside.
Yes.
I don't think it's been up.
No,
It's- oh,
Ocean
okay.
Shores has.
Yeah. Only Ocean Shore goes all the way to Woodside to graduate. Then, I can do, oh, no, I can't do both. They're going to be on the same day.
They're having both of them on the same day?
They're both the 16th.
Where,
Unless Cabrillo's early in the
seeing those
day.
dates? Where are we seeing it? Okay. Oh, there it is.
I'll try to stay flexible. I never know what, this far in advance, I have no idea what my schedule will be like. So hopefully I can still do Ortega, but if people are willing to do some juggling that week, I'll try to, I'll try to pick up anything I can, I can do that other people aren't able to attend.
And I try to attend most of them, unless, so like if you let me know or Sandy know if there's some that you cannot attend, then I can make sure and at least have, because some do overlap, so you can't be at two places at one time.
So I have right now I have LMEC, homeschool, and I was down for Ocean Shore. So
Oh, that's right, you got. So,
I have 3.
Matt, would you, I could trade you.
For, you want to trade me
Cabrillo?
for Ortega?
Yeah,
Oh, yes, sure.
okay.
And you're going to be at Ocean Shore? Yeah.
I'll be at Ocean Shore. Okay, and then Matt will do Cabrillo, thank you.
Let me see what day of the week that is before I,
You really, so that'd be the next day, so that'd be a Wednesday?
it's a Wednesday.
At 9 in the morning?
I'm not.
Oh, I'm sorry. The Cabrillo is on the Wednesday, and it doesn't have a time.
Right.
So, no, Cabrillo's a Tuesday.
Usually it's
Cabrillo's
2 or 3 in the
Cabrillo's
afternoon.
a Tuesday, you're right.
Yeah.
That's fine. I can do the Tuesdays. I'm not sure if I can do Wednesdays. So
Okay.
actually, it's better for me to do because I'm pretty sure I would not be able to make the Ortega graduation. So
So the
I'll put
16th is a
Cabrillo on the
Wednesday?
16th. 16th is a Tuesday.
That's a Tuesday, yeah.
I'll do
Oh.
Alamar, because that's my school, right? Unless somebody else would like to do it.
Hey, I'm doing 2, I'm not volunteering for any more.
If it's depending on how it goes, if I wind up having to take the day off for Cabrillo, I may as well just
I know,
go
I
to
was thinking
Valamar.
the same
But we don't know
thing,
what time
but
it is.
we don't know what time
so
Cabrillo's is.
It could be at the same time as Cabrillo. We can't.
Right.
When do you know when they would know? Or?
I don't know, I'm surprised they don't know by now. So
Okay.
maybe we just haven't been informed, so I could ask Tom.
Okay.
The
Yeah,
preschools is in the morning on a Wednesday.
What was it?
The preschool is in the morning on a
Yeah.
Wednesday, which is the one day I can't.
Oh, and it usually is in the morning.
Yeah, it says 11:45.
Oh,
Yeah.
Lindemar?
Yeah,
Uh-huh.
but
And
on a
I-
Wednesday, I can do any other day other than Wednesdays.
And
And we have a board meeting that night too.
And I usually attend those, so, but if somebody else wants to go and Elizabeth can't,
I can go.
oh, thank you.
If somebody wants to switch Sunset Ridge, I could probably do something else.
I've got the
thought-
I've got the
What's the same
homeschool on
day?
the 2nd, so that's no problem. The 8th grade homeschool, which will be at Cabrillo. I could probably get to the LMEC one late, but it would probably,
That's okay, I can do
I
it.
could probably be there by 12:30, 12 or 12:30.
Well, I mean, how long is it?
I don't know.
There's not that many kids.
It's pretty, I would think it's pretty quick, right?
Well, they have a cute little film.
Yeah.
They're doing their open house and all their stuff on Wednesdays, which is the only day of the week I can't do.
Oh.
Because their open house is at 8:30 in the morning also, so.
Yeah, I forgot to check my work schedule.
8th grade's on the 2nd. Homeschool.
Okay, is that it for a future agenda, or? All right, so, yes?
On June 17th, I'm working, so I'm just wondering if there is somebody who could switch with me?
That's the Wednesday again, right?
Yeah, it's a Wednesday.
It's been heavy with LAC.
Well, if I'm gonna do it Tega at 9, I can't switch with you. Should be the same thing.
Well, they're all on that Wednesday.
Wednesdays are not, yeah.
They're
It
all
looks
on
like
a- they're all
Wednesday
on a
mornings are
Wednesday,
not good
okay.
for
That's
this
funny.
board.
They're all on
Yeah, Wednesday in the
Wednesdays.
daytime.
I might be able to, but I think I have to wait till it gets closer to see. I'll just block off the whole day and just go to a whole bunch
Well,
of.
Yeah.
yeah, because, you go from one to another.
Well, that would be a really fun day.
That's true.
No.
So I'll put Kathy Shikari, question mark, for Sunset Ridge, or, because Laverne, I'll make sure and go to at least Sunset Ridge then, and then I won't go to Ortega, at least, just that they're.
The LMEC, let me see what I can do.
And then I'll go to
The LMEC, I can,
after, yeah.
I
But
can
Kathy said-
possibly
I'll
get
go to
there at
LMAC. I'll go to LMAC.
on the Wednesday.
I mean, unless you're.
Because I can't do the others because they're earlier on
Yeah.
the Wednesday, but
Yeah,
the other one's a week earlier on a
I'll just
Tuesday,
try
so
to
that's fine.
and Ray's usually at LMEC,
Okay,
yeah.
yeah. Perfect.
All right, we're good. So we are adjourned at 9:49.
And are we going back?
And we're going back to closed session.
Oh, yeah.